Hey there! You now have a preferred customer status with the Omar. Yeah, if you've ever played Deus Ex 2, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. And for the record, because people will ask, no, I don't really play any games anymore, don't have time. Now, I record fountain pen reviews. But I remember Deus Ex, I love Deus Ex. The sequel, I have mixed feelings about it, but there was the Omar. Now, this is an Omar too. This is the Opus 88 Omar. Opus 88, company established in 1988 in Taiwan, which is interesting because that means that company has been around for quite a long time. And I think these pens are becoming super popular right now. So very interesting. They launched quite a bunch of nice pens. Here's another one of theirs. This is the orange Demonstrator. They make nice pens. They're a bit bigger, and they have one-way shut-off valves, which is actually quite a cool system. It's easiest to show you that on this pen because it's a Demonstrator, but what you do is you unscrew the section, take it off, take an eyedropper that's supplied, fill the pen with ink, and then you see that one-way shut-off valve here. So right now, no ink flows into the section, but then when you start to unscrew this, that piston rod moves up, give it a tap, you saw an air bubble, and this little chamber fills with ink. Now you can write, and you write, and alright, it'll keep writing, or you can just shut it off once the chamber is filled, and at some point it will run dry. The advantage of this system is that it holds a lot of ink, but then so does a regular eyedropper filled pen. But the big advantage is because of that shut-off valve, the pens don't really burp so much, right? Heat from your hand, transferred into the pen, makes an air bubble inside expand and ink is expelled from the pen. But with these pens that doesn't happen so much, which is rather nice. Now the Omar, interesting new model. Many of their older models were rather blocky. I don't mind that so much, but I think the Omar is a little bit more refined. So let's have a good look at this pen. I'm going to cover the details, I'll do a writing sample, and then I'll tell you what I like about it and what I don't like about it. Let's get started. Okay, the Opus 88 Omar, which as you can see a bit longer than a Lamy Safari and definitely girthier. Now, this pen comes in a nice little box, which I will show you. Let me zoom out a little bit. Right, it has a cardboard outer sleeve. And then there is this box since 1977, which is interesting because I just said 1988 and I would also assume that Opus 88 stood for 1988, and that is something that I had in mind and that's something I read, and now I guess I read it wrong. Okay, Opus 88, I'm so sorry, I'm not perfect. Opus 88, fine writing instruments, has a little magnetic closure, you get a little booklet, filling instructions, which is useful because the one-way shut-off valve not everyone may be familiar with. And then we have a nice little eyedropper, which is quite big. It's quite nice. Okay, this comes out, but I'm pretty sure there's nothing under there, so we're going to leave that in there. Now let's look at the parts of the pen. So as I said, these come in a couple of finishes, but we're going to look at this finish here, okay, which is the gray. Top of the cap, the finial, is this sort of, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call this white, it's more like an off-white. It's almost ivory, I think, in real life. That's what it looks like. Kind of flat, I like that. Then we have a clip that says Opus 88, and this clip is very stiff. We have this nice material on the cap, which I enjoy. And then we have the barrel, which widens and then tapers down a bit. And then finally here you have that little knob which you can use to open up that one-way shut-off valve as you are writing. And you can actually grease that a little bit. Section. I always like these sections. I think this is quite comfortable. Tapers down, flares out a little bit. Comfortable pen. Posting, not possible. It's too loose, cap will fall off. But it is a pretty large pen to begin with. Then we have a number 6 nib, in this case 1.5, it is laser engraved Opus 88, has some scroll work on it, looks a bit like a Jovo nib to me, and has a plastic feed. I'm not going to unscrew the section because there's a massive amount of ink in there which I don't want to leak out. Okay, That's what I can tell you about the pen. Let's see how it writes. I'm going to open up that valve, and then here we go. Opus 88. Omar with a 1.5mm stub, and the ink is Waterman Havana Brown, older bottle. The writing, I will say, is pretty smooth. Nice nib. Fast writing works pretty well. Nice amount of line variation because it is a nice stub. It is a stub, I would say. It is pretty wet. Edges are rounded off, so you will get some line variation, which is quite nice. Gives a bit of a calligraphic effect to your writing. If you start to do real calligraphy with it, the edges are not super sharp, so you won't get edges that are as crisp as you would get with a nib with sharper edges, but you'll be able to do some calligraphy for sure. Line variation, well, has natural line variation because of the shape of the nib. You can squeeze down on a little bit, it will open up a bit more. I don't think that is necessary in a stub nib, and as always you should be very, very careful when you're doing that. As to reverse writing, yeah, with a stub, not typically very successful because of the shape of that nib. But as you can see, you can make it a little finer if you turn it upside down. So, I like this. Pleasant writing experience. Let's see what I like about it and what I don't like about it. So, what do I like about the Opus 88 Omar? Well, there's a couple of things that I think is a lot of fun. Fine, medium, broad, 1.5mm stub nibs. That's a pretty decent lineup of nibs, I would say. It's a larger pen, which I like, and a trick is that a lot of these Opus 88 pens, I haven't tried it with this model, but you can unscrew the nib unit and a pilot parallel unit fits in, the feed and that weird nib they have, which is kind of nice if you like calligraphy but you want a slightly girthier pen because those parallels are very thin and skinny. Also, I'll be honest, I think that the price is pretty sweet on these. 99.50 euros, that includes 21% VAT, so don't forget, if you order overseas you don't have to pay that 21% VAT from Appelboom European sellers. And I have a 10% discount code for Appelboom on my webpage, so then it actually becomes pretty attractive, I think, to get this model. So I like that. Now, specific to this model, there's a couple of things I really like. It's nice, it's larger, as many Opus 88 pens are, and I like that Opus 88 now has moved away a little bit from these very blocky pens they have been making. There's nothing wrong with that. I like these pens too, but I think the Omar just looks a little bit more refined, which I think is very nice. You get a great ink capacity and no real burping because of that one-way shut-off valve, which I think is very nice. The price, again, I think it's pretty good. I also think you get a complete package because they ship you the pen with an eyedropper so you can immediately use it. I think it's nice. I like a bigger pen, and this is just very pleasant, very comfortable to me. Also, the 1.5mm nib is nice. A nice calligraphic effect to your handwriting. Good sized pen, so I really like that. Things I don't like so much, well, there's only two things I can mention. One is kind of a weak argument, but it's big, and big pens are not for everyone. So some people may find this a little either too long, too girthy, or both. Something to be aware of, but yeah, that's what happens when you buy a bigger pen. Just be aware. I would classify this probably as an oversized pen. So it is a little bigger. People with very small hands may not find that very pleasant and comfortable to use. The barrel is translucent. I now see as I hold it up against the light. You probably can't see that, but I can. I had a dark ink in it before, so I couldn't see it so well. at first. Final thing I wanted to mention is the pens don't post. Now they're big enough to begin with, I think, but this is not really solid posting. So if you really love to post your pens, this may not work for you. Having said that, nib is good. The ink flow keeps up really well. I wrote quite a lot with it. 1.5mm stubs can cause feeds to run dry, but it doesn't really happen here. Maybe because there's such a solid ink capacity behind it, I don't know, but it works. So very, very good. I enjoy it. Guys, I hope this was useful, and I'll gladly see you later. Bye-bye.